Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of Trump Trolls Trump. You know, the show where one person with a particular last name mocks and ridicules relentlessly, justifiably, and endlessly, as it turns out, another person with the same last name. Change it. Anyway, I'm going to leave it to you to decide which is which, who is who. But it is time to look back on week 24, that is day 173 we're on, of the golden age of America we were promised and which has undoubtedly been achieved. We all know, I don't know if we all know, but I know this and I'm sharing this information with you. Donald is a student of history. I truly believe that if he had taken another path, he could have been a professional historian, up there with the likes of luminaries like Heather Cox Richardson. I truly believe this is the case, and you know what? So does he. Anyway, he is not just a student of world history in general, or I should say a professor in his own little mind, but he is a more specifically an expert in American history. And that's what should concern us, because he is a leader of this country. So if you have questions about American history, he is your guy, because he's got the answers. So this brings us to our newest segment, because I do believe that we should share his deep knowledge and wisdom about the history of our country right here on Trump Trolls Trump. I feel like I'm breaking news, actually, because I don't know if enough people understand the depth of his talent. So this is the American History Moment, brought to you by the sheer magnitude of Donald Trump's brilliance and genius. In this week's installment, Donald explains the timeline of American history and the complications our country has faced as it struggled to transition out of the Great Depression. So please let us watch and learn together at the feet of this master.
Country had a Great Depression, and then after the Depression, long after it started, they brought back tariffs to see if they could save it, but it took them really 25 years. When you say about 25 years to get out of the Great Depression, a lot of people don't understand that.
Yes, a lot of people don't understand something that didn't happen the way he just said it happened. But here's another thing. What worries me about that kind of embarrassing display is that he's actually thinking ahead and telling us that if he continues down the road of imposing insane tariffs on other countries, it's going to take us a quarter of a century to recover from the next Great Depression that he will have been responsible for starting. Yikes. Another person who has never had an answer and never has an answer is Department of State spokesperson Tammy Bruce, who, I have to be honest, she gives Donald a run for his money. She never seems actually to speak to anything, which is weird considering she's a spokesperson, and from what I understand, that should be in the job description. She rarely has anything of substance to say. It is literally all spin. And her top qualification appears to be dodging and evading. I mean, she must have like really good core and lower body strength to the extent that she's bobbing and weaving all the time, evading very simple and direct questions. This week, she was in top form, which is to say she performed miserably. In a press conference, she was asked what should have been, again, a very simple question, which was, quote, follow along here. Okay. When you say the end of the week, do you mean Friday, Saturday, or Sunday? Let's play along at home and see if you know the answer to that question. Take a look.
By the end of the week, does that mean by Friday, by Saturday, or by Sunday?
I think generally it could be the collection of the days at the end of the week. I can't I'm not going to specify because we know how things can happen. The world happens. These are men and women who are at the forefront of deliberate change, and they're determined to be managing it. So these are the people who understand, and that's a very specific thing to say, even though it was kind of end of the week. But I would say, to clarify a little bit more, I would say probably the end of the week.
Okay. It's going to be by the end of the week. Can you please clarify? Yes, I'm going to clarify by telling you it's going to be the end of the week. All right. There is a simple way out of this to say, do you mean Friday? Do you mean Saturday? Do you mean Sunday? We don't know yet which specific day. I think it's not a good answer because once again, just like tell us. But what she did there was show the world that she literally doesn't know which day ends the week. Do you? I'm pretty sure you do. The last day of the work week typically is Friday. But if you work in the federal government, in the executive branch, you pretty much work 7 days a week. So what is officially the last day of the week? Well, if you said Saturday, you win. The last day of the week is Saturday. The first day of the week is Sunday. This is something a kindergartner can tell you. And yet that woman is the spokesperson for a fairly important agency known as the Department of State. Speaking of getting things done, why am I speaking of getting things done? Because this woman clearly never gets anything done, unless, of course, her purpose is never to answer a question, in which case, brava. It was only a couple of weeks ago that Donald was bombing the Middle East and threatening the entire world order. In other words, it was a day ending in Y and a week ending in Saturday. Right after those bombings, which, as it turns out, did little to curb Iran's nuclear enrichment capabilities, there were warnings that Iranian sleeper cells within the United States were planning attacks on our homeland. Understandably, the nation was on edge. Could an attack in the United States be imminent? Well, not to worry, because the administration is always working so hard to keep us safe. Always. Around the clock. I mean, Director of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, now, granted, she's busy with other things, like there's all the cosplaying, and she has to conduct polls on social media to decide which cowgirl outfit is going to look better in her official portrait. You know, she's busy. But other than that, she was on the case to protect us from the international threat of puppy attack. And how was she going to do this? By murdering the puppies. But no, there was actually more, probably to distract us from the just stunning ineptitude of these people and the fact that the bombing of Iran, which was unilateral and unprovoked, is what made us less safe in the first place. She needed to tell us about a vitally important safety initiative that, you know, most of us probably haven't thought about, but has been just vital to American security over the last few years. But it is time, apparently, to move on. And here is this important.
We have some very exciting news to announce that today we have started a new no shoes policy with the Department, the Transportation Security Administration. TSA will no longer require travelers to remove their shoes when they go through our security checkpoints. This is something that I know for quite some time people have talked about and discussed, and we know that when President Trump was elected that he pledged to make life better for all Americans.
I think their work here is done. You guys can go home. Brava again. Good job. There's literally nothing else you could do to keep this country safe other than leave it. But, you know, sadly, we're stuck with these people. And just to put this in context, I've been traveling abroad. Guess what? No other country makes you take off your fucking shoes to get on an airplane. So welcome to that club, America. It's been a decades-long detour into stupidity, thinking that taking off your shoes to go through security is somehow going to prevent airline disasters. No, the only thing that could do that is getting rid of the Trump regime. But, Kristi Noem, much like Donald, fancies herself a bit of a superhero. I think that explains all the dressing up. And we have a superhero story. The MAGA crowd is getting worked up. Again, I mean, they're perpetually worked up, so it seems redundant to say they're getting worked up again. But this time, they have a new target for their ire, and it is Superman. Superman. I mean, I thought everybody liked Superman. There's a new Superman movie coming this month, I believe. And it was written and directed by James Gunn. Gunn describes the superhero reboot as a story about, and this is the part that is getting them upset, quote, an immigrant that came from other places, unquote, and this is even worse. And said the movie focuses on, quote unquote, human kindness. The horror. Because apparently that's controversial among people who worship at the altar of sociopaths. I am not a Superman aficionado. I mean, I grew up watching the George Reeves TV show. And of course, I've seen the Christopher Reeve movies, but, it's not, I haven't read the comic books or anything like that. But I'm pretty sure I know enough about Superman iconography, wrong word, lore, timelines to know that he's from another planet. Does that count as illegal immigration among the anti-woke in MAGA world? Because, I mean, he's not brown, as far as I'm aware. Like, maybe Krypton is south of the border, which seems difficult to believe because last I checked, and these, listen, MAGA probably doesn't know this, but the Earth revolves around its axis, so probably the location of Krypton changes. It's probably not always south of the border. Also, Krypton is fictional. When asked by the Times of London if Gunn had considered how the film would be received in American red states, he replied, quote, obviously there will be jerks out there who will take it as offensive just because it is about kindness, but screw them, unquote. Watch here as the talking heads at Fox State TV say the reasoning behind all of the wokeness. And I can't believe I'm saying it. I'm just sorry I have to. Yes, the reasoning behind all of the wokeness is probably pedophilia.
I can't believe that we've come down to that. And I don't know. We don't go to the movie theater to be lectured to and to have somebody throw their ideology onto us. I wonder if it'll be successful.
You know what it says on his cape? MS-13.
James Gunn nearly lost his job, career. He was fired after they unearthed tweets containing pedophile jokes. So he was banished, canceled. This is his way back. He's creating a moat of woke, enlightened opinion around him. A lot of Me Too suspects do that. James Franco did it. Harvey Weinstein donated a lot to Democrats because he was running around sexually assaulting people. So this is what you do.
Got a woke shield.
He's got a woke shield.
The woke moat.
Yeah.
Oh, is this what you do? Is this what you do? And how would you know? I sometimes wonder, what dark, creepy, vile thoughts lurk around in these people's minds that they have to tell viewers that the only reason any human being could possibly make a movie that is supportive of immigrants and focuses on and elevates acts of human kindness must be a pedophile? Do yourselves a favor and never, ever look inside their minds, because I promise you, it is probably much more terrifying than that. So I want to move on to another story. Remember Sean Duffy? If you don't, consider yourselves lucky. He is Donald's pick to run the Department of Transportation because, I mean, he has a lot of experience, to be fair. He was probably one of the few people in the Trump regime, a cabinet secretary who actually has relevant experience to the job at hand because he was a star, if that's the right word, of MTV's Real World Road Rules All-Star Challenge. Yes, he was in a TV show about cars. So, Department of Transportation, that tracks. So if you spend enough time drunk in a hot tub, you are probably infinitely more likely to get a top job in the Trump regime. There's a problem, though. Duffy is not a master of all transportation. Apparently, he's afraid to ride the subway as if, he's hopping on the train at Port Authority in 1973. He has done such a horrific job as the Secretary of Transportation that the entire country is now terrified to get on airplanes. But he's got a new assignment. Actually, I was gonna try to make a joke, but not really sure yet who the joke is on. So let's watch this together and see if we can come up with something.
President Donald Trump names U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy as interim administrator of NASA. Duffy, the former Wisconsin congressman, responded tonight saying he's honored to accept the mission, adding, "Time to take over space. Let's launch."
Oh, please go. Please. The joke's on them, honestly, because right now the only people going to space are Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. So, Sean Duffy, have at it. I'm sure you're going to do great. Before we get to our last troll of the week, please take a second to help us get the word out by hitting the like button and sharing this video with a friend or family or any like-minded person. And we're getting really close to having 500,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed already, please do. We would really appreciate it. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Trump Trolls Trump. And remember, we could go on, but we know that your time is valuable. And there's just way too much to make fun of every week. So we always run out of time. Here's some other things we could have gone over, just so you're aware that we're not skipping. Promise you. A White House Nazi, Stephen Miller's battery pack, died, and he was cut off mid-rant on Fox State TV. Hallelujah. An artificial intelligence robot is impersonating Marco Rubio, and my question is, how would we ever be able to tell? Alex Jones broke down and cried on Twitter and threatened to vomit on camera because the Epstein client list has been disappeared. There is now a new YouGov poll that has J.D. Vance leading a popularity contest over Donald. The cabinet meeting this week, when Donald found out on live television that his defense secretary put a pause on military aid to Ukraine, was fun. Hegseth was sitting right next to Donald, and Donald knew absolutely nothing about it. I enjoyed that. But I want to close with the final few moments of that cabinet meeting, if that's even what it was, because quite frankly, it seems like none of these people knows anything. Donald did something that he usually is incapable of doing. And again, credit where credit is due. Because, this show is all about trolling him. But every once in a while, I think we need to give somebody their due, even if somebody is stupid and horrific and cruel and moronic as Donald Trump. At the end of this meeting, he spoke to issues that I think are among the most important of our time. Pressing issues that deservedly take up a lot of time of a man as busy as the President of the United States of America. issues that we as Americans should also be deeply, deeply concerned about. What were these issues? Well, we're going to play a clip so you know. Roll.
Painted the room a nice color, beige color, and it's been really something. The only question is, will I gold leaf the corners? You could maybe tell me my cabinet could take about. You see the top line moldings, and the only question is, do you gold leaf it? Because you can't paint it. If you paint it, it won't look good because they've never found a paint that looks like gold. You see that in the Oval Office. They've tried for years and years. Somebody could become very wealthy, but they've never found a paint that looks like gold. So painting it is easy, but it won't look right. And the question is whether or not we should gold leaf it.
All right, everybody, that does it for this week's episode of Trump Trolls Trump. We will be back next Saturday because it never ends. Thanks, and I'll see you then.